What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video, back with everyone's favorite video of the week, my favorite underdog picks. As always, these are the picks that I am taking this week. Up to you if you choose to tail or not. Also, for those of you who have not signed up yet for Underdog, they upped the bonus funds to $100 for new users. So if you sign up with promo code FFA, play at least $5, they'll give you $100 now in bonus funds, along with my promo of getting my rankings and detailed projections for free for the rest of the season. Pretty darn good deal if you ask me. All right, let's start off with the big boy this week. You all know that I love taking higher on Malik Nabers because when he hits big. He's not someone that's always hovering around 50, 60, 70 receiving yards. He has the upside to push past 120. Those are the players we like to be taking. You also all know that while Ladd is off to a slower start than expected, he is still very much an elite wide receiver on an elite offense with a great quarterback, a great coordinator, and thus has an immense weekly ceiling. He just hasn't hit it yet this season. I'm also pretty excited about this Chargers at Giants game. Spread is decently wide. I think it's 6.5 right now. So there's still a possibility that the Chargers go in there. They win by 17, 20 points, and maybe we don't get the game we're expecting. But the Giants are the fourth best schedule adjusted matchup for wide receiver targets. They also allow the 9th best catch rate boost to wide receivers. The Chargers have a good defense, but the loss of Khalil Mack obviously hurts, and they're actually the 6th best matchup in terms of schedule adjusted for wide receiver targets. They allow a solid boost to yards per reception for wide receivers as well. This will be Jackson Dart's first start, and while that does come with some variance, he was great in the preseason. It does say something that this early, with Russ looking pretty good at times, that they've already gone to him. And there are some scouts out there, not all of them, and I wouldn't even say most of them, but some scouts out there that did have Jackson Dart as the number one quarterback in this class. So there's still a possibility that Jackson Dart is just a good quarterback that has earned his way to the starting role by week 4 of the season. I don't think this is some scrub backup stepping in here. I don't anticipate the Giants to hide him on offense. Maybe they start off with a somewhat run-heavy game script, because it would still be a little bit unlikely to see him go out there and throw the ball 90% of plays, right? That's not going to happen. They're not going to come out guns a-blazing and just chuck the ball around every play. They're going to try and have the run game have some success. But even if they lean a little bit more run-heavy than we're expecting, it's not like, the Chargers are going to be shut down on the other side. The Chargers are going to score points this week. So the Giants know they cannot win this game on a bunch of Cam Scatterbo and Devin Singletary carries. As much as we like Cam, it is going to be the receiving game for Cam more than the ground game. It's very unlikely those two running backs are the reason the Giants pull ahead, stay ahead this week, and the Chargers never catch up. They're going to need to throw the ball, and when they do, Malik Nabers will be the one they look at. Kind of wild to think about, but that was the worst game of Nabers' career last week, and it was his only game below 41 receiving yards. That is very impressive from this is a year 2 player. Crazy to have 41 was his worst game going to last week. Then he had 17 yards last week. He also had at least 63 receiving yards in 9 consecutive games before last week. So I feel pretty good taking higher than 62.5 receiving yards as his projection on Underdog. On the other side, I'm going with Ladd because I really do think people are panicking a little bit too much with him. Of course, it's not great, right? If you drafted him in the 3rd round of your fantasy league and you see Quentin Johnston used a ton in the red zone, Keenan Allen come in a good target share and being used in the red zone, you don't love seeing that. But let's not forget that Ladd was wide open for a 60-yard touchdown in week 2. Herbert just happened to not see him. That's just going to happen from time to time. And so if they hit on that single one play, if Herbert just looks a little bit more to the right, we're sitting here with 70-something yards in week 1, over 100 yards in week 2. And the narrative would be completely different again if Herbert just looked a little bit to the right. The entire narrative is different on a player. I think that's a situation to capitalize on. Please remember how amazing he was as a rookie last season. From week 7 on, he averaged 88 receiving yards per game. He had an 80% catch rate, 12.1 yards per target. This year, Yards per target is down. Catch rate is down. But again, I think that's more just randomness on a small 3-game sample. He is still an incredible wide receiver. And the Giants are the second best possible matchup for slot wide receivers. Ladd still running 61.5% of his routes from the slot. That easily leads the team. And he does have the most routes run on the team overall, not even just in the slot. He is running the most routes on the team. He's still an elite wide receiver. He's simply off to a slower start. I think that changes this week, and people remember how good he is after this game. Now, I'm totally fine if you just want to take higher on their baseline underdog projections. I believe it's 62.5 receiving yards for Malik Nabers, 63.5 for Ladd McConkey. So if you just want to put those two into a pick, apply a boost, you're probably going to get it to like 4.5x this weekend. But of course, that's not going to qualify us for the big play this week. So I like going up to 100 yards on both. The correlation is there, right? If Malik Nabers or Ladd hits on a 40, 50, 60-yard play, that increases the potential to score a touchdown there, increases the pass play rate on the other side, and just gets the other onto the field quicker on a more aggressive offense. Like the correlation, no matter which one hits, is beautiful for both of them. So I like doing that. If you go to higher than 99.5 receiving yards for both, that is 14.65x. Before even applying a boost, I applied a boost right before doing this video. It's 25x. So whatever boost in your lobby right now, watching this video, take 99.5 receiving yards higher on both them. You can get that to 25x. Obviously, don't put a lot on it, but 25x, I definitely think it hits, more than 1 out of 25 times. But again, understand how unlikely that is. On a 25x, you're hoping to hit what? Once every year and a half on something like that? Like if you play every single weekend, I guess if we went through like the end of the fantasy season, but also into the Super Bowl, you're hoping to hit once a year, but that's the rate that we're kind of looking for here. So it's not super likely to hit. But what I also did this week, which I haven't done so far this season, is I did a ladder. So Underdog does have ladders. You need to make at least 3 picks. We'll go over in detail the third pick I have after this. But basically, you get a payout matching the highest level on the ladder that all 3 hit. So if one person goes nuclear and the other 2 do nothing, you don't get anything. You need all these guys to do something. But if all 3 of your picks hit level 1, you get the payout for level 1. All hit level 2, payout for level 2. All hit 3, payout for level 3. Pretty simple, right? So I've done a ladder on Malik Nabers, Ladd McConkey, and Rashid Shaheed, who again, we're going to go over in a second. The first level of that is 45 receiving yards for Ladd, 45 for Nabers, 20 for Shaheed. So as long as all 3 hit that very low baseline, we're going to 1.5x. If Nabers hits 63, Ladd hits 64, and Shaheed hits 33, we're going to 3x. And then the kicker. Why you would do a ladder is for the ceiling. We can hopefully get everyone to that baseline 1.5x, but we will 100x if Nabers and Ladd hit 120 receiving yards and Shaheed hits 80. Is that likely to happen? No, but I do think it happens more than 1% of the time, and it is nice knowing, on a regular pick, it has to happen, right? You have to have everyone hit that mark. So you have this big payout, but then nothing on the low end. It is nice knowing if we get 45 receiving yards from Ladd, 45 from Nabers, just 20 from Rashid Shaheed, we are going to get 1.5x. So I like doing that ladder. I took that this week. But yeah, for Shaheed, I think it's also randomness, him kind of underperforming this season so far as well. In camp, the reports are great. There were some reports that were like he could be more targeted than Olave. He's the go-to guy. You had to kind of take those with a grain of salt. Like we still projected Olave to be much better this season, but I think more so the sentiment is what I'm still holding on to. That like he had a good camp. He's a good player. We know that he can hit deep, right? That's like his calling card in the NFL. We know that he had at least 83 receiving yards in 4 of 6 games last season. We know that even before that, like his yards per reception by year are 17.4, 15.6, 17.5. Like we know Rashid Shaheed is a big play threat. This season, the offense is a little bit different, so he's getting more usage close to the line of scrimmage, but that's a good thing, right? Like I feel like in our minds, we're saying, he's not a deep threat anymore. All his targets are close, 9.1 yards per reception on the season. He's only going to be in this low A dot role. No, he can still hit deep downfield. He just also has a nice baseline of targets close. So it's a positive for Shaheed. He's hit on like 2 decently sized plays so far this season, but he hasn't had a classic Shaheed day where it's like he has, a 50 or a 60-yard touchdown reception. But that is going to come at some point this season. We know that this week, you don't love Buffalo because they can really limit plays on the other side. So I'm not saying this is a lock to where it's like the Saints going to run 80 plays and 60 of them passes and, Rattler's going to drop back 60, 65 times. No, that's probably not going to happen. But only 6 teams boost yards per reception more than Buffalo. We know that it's 15.5-point home favorites for Buffalo. So for most of this game, the Saints are going to have to be dropping back. They're going to be playing from behind, and we know they play an elevated pace. So we are still expecting a lot of dropbacks from the Saints this weekend in what is a decent matchup. Shaheed has one of the better cornerback matchups on the week, and his baseline underdog projection, 32.5 receiving yards, he can get that in one play. And I like adding him to the ladder because he can do that as well. His maximum on the ladder is only 80 receiving yards. He can get there in 1 or 2 receptions. Obviously, 1 reception, that would be a pretty big play, but he doesn't need that many receptions. He can hit for that, and that's who you want to add to the ladder. You don't want to add people in the ladder that it's like are always around. Like if his projection was 32.5 and we were pretty much always expecting 20 to 40, you're not putting him on a ladder. He's just not going to have that sort of ceiling. Shaheed objectively has that ceiling. He did this in 4 of 6 games last season. Is it a great spot? No, but it's a potentially good spot if Buffalo gets ahead quickly and we can see a lot of play volume on the Saints side. After that pick, another solo one I like is Javonte Williams, higher than 2.5 receptions. The Packers do have an exceptional defense, but they are the second best schedule-adjusted matchup for running back receptions. Javonte has 2, 6, and 5 receptions so far on the season, and he's run a route on 57% of the team's dropbacks compared to only 13% for Miles Sanders. One of these days, they'll activate Jaden Blue, and then we'll kind of see how things shake out. And who knows, maybe it's this weekend, and that really hurts the Javonte pick. But I also don't think the first week that Jaden Blue plays, he's going to go out there and be the guy they trust in pass protection, be the one they trust in 2-minute and on passing down snaps. I think they'll slowly integrate him in to the offense. So I still think Javonte is going to run a ton of routes. It's a good matchup. They're at home in a dome. And also Dallas is 7-point home underdogs. So you got to think they're going to be trailing. They're in a matchup that already tilts pass attempts towards the running back position, and CeeDee Lamb is gone. So that's going to open up a ton of targets. I don't think Flournoy is going to be getting all the CeeDee Lamb targets. Jalen Tolbert isn't exactly someone who commands a ton. So I do think there's going to be extra dump offs available for Javonte Williams. I don't know. I don't think it hits 100% of the time, but we're typically looking for about 60% hit rate on these, and I do think it hits more than 60% of the time. I, of course, have to take higher on something for TreVeyon Henderson. We're 3-0 through 3 weeks on TreVeyon Henderson. We didn't hit on the big one last week of really elevating everything, but we hit on the baseline rushing yards projection for TreVeyon last week. We've hit now on receptions, receiving yards, and rushing yards. So we've kind of rotated through what we're taking for him every week. This week for TreVeyon Henderson and this entire Patriots rushing attack, it definitely favors running back rushing. This is a great spot. They're home favorites. The matchup for the Panthers really elevates efficiency for running backs on the ground. But Underdog has done a great job of already factoring that in, so they boosted his projection for rushing yards to a point where I don't love it. You definitely have to be right that he's the lead back. So I'm going back to receiving yards. The whole thesis for why you would like TreVeyon this week is that, Stevenson lost him the game last week. Ramondre Stevenson lost him the game with a goal line fumble, another fumble around 50-yard line or something. That lost him the game. Then you had Gibson come in and immediately fumble after that. So the thought process here and what we've seen so far in practice so far is that TreVeyon Henderson would open as the lead back, and they would give him an opportunity to be the best running back on the team this week. To me, yes, that elevates his baseline projection for carries, but the reason we like TreVeyon is the explosiveness in the receiving game, right? He's great as a pass catcher. If we're right and he's just on the field more, it's also going to benefit him in the receiving game because he is someone that you don't put onto the field and only give carries to. You don't drop back and never give him screen passes, never give him dump offs. He's going to have a decent target share when he's on the field. And so if we just think he's going to be on the field more this week, I would rather just say, you know what, they boosted the rushing yards to account for that, but they didn't boost the receiving yards. So if we're right, the better thing to go after is the receiving yards. So 17.5 receiving yards, we'll take higher on that. I think most of the time he'll get into the 20s this week. I also begrudgingly like Nick Chubb this week. It's not like I love him in fantasy, but I do like higher than 52.5 receiving yards. I don't think he'll have many receptions. He might not score a touchdown. And so in, again, fantasy, redraft, start sit leagues, I don't love him because he could still have 80 rushing yards and score 8 fantasy points. But the Titans are the second best matchup for running back yards per carry. They are the third best matchup for total running back rush attempts, again, schedule adjusted. This is a very winnable game for the Texans. And while we haven't seen them in a winning game script so far this season, we can feel pretty confident that they're not going to lean super pass heavy. Like, it's pretty likely that if the Texans get up by 7 to 10 points, especially in the fourth quarter, they are going to run the ball a lot. They'll run the ball with Nick Chubb in that scenario. I like Woody Marks. I'm interested to see what Underdog has for his projection when they release it. They haven't yet, but it's much more likely to be a Chubb game. So if they get down, that's Woody Marks in the passing game. Maybe he racks up some carries. Maybe he starts to get going. If they are winning, it is Nick Chubb. That's who they're going to lean on late in games. And for as much as I kind of poo-poo Nick Chubb sometimes because he's not going to rip off any big plays, he's just not someone I want that much long-term in fantasy football, he is going to get what's blocked for him. He is not going to create negative plays. And so that's what they want. In the second half of this game, they're going to be like, you know what? We can block you 4 yards every single play. So we're just going to give you a bunch of 4 or 5 yard carries here. And he's not going to go backwards. He's going to get 3 to 4 yards every time. That's what they want. That'll really benefit us if they're racking up 15, 16, 17 carries for him. It's going to be pretty likely that he's able to go higher than 52.5 rushing yards. So those are my favorite Underdog picks so far this week. I have more on the website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. And remember the promo. If you've not signed up yet, all you got to do is sign up for your first account using promo code FFA and play at least $5. They'll give you $100 in bonus funds. That's going to last you all season. I mean, truly, like if you haven't signed up yet and you're just kind of watching this videos for fun, you put $5 in, you get $100 in bonus funds. That will last you all the way through the Super Bowl at a couple dollars per week. So you can just kind of take our big play. It's all in bonus funds. Who cares if you don't hit? And again, the following morning, I'll give you a login to the website so you can see my weekly rankings, weekly detailed projections for free. All right. Good luck to everyone this weekend, both on Underdog and in your redraft leagues. That'll do it for this one. And I'll see you all on Monday to go over my week 5 waiver wire picks.